Hello and welcome to the Coalition. My name is Dana, and as you can tell by the hat, I saw this kind of small independent movie by the name of Spider Man. Uh, no Way Home, because ain't no way he getting home tonight. Um, Let me explain everything that happens, but don't worry, this is going to be completely 100% spoiler free. I'm going to just be touching upon what the movie is actually about, the theme of the movie, um, the emotion and the emotional weight of the characters, and especially just the characters that we know from the trailer and from whatever poster and interviews that they've done. So it's just to touch upon what we know. And then I'm going to just give my overall feelings, my thoughts on the movie, and also the crowd reaction. Because there are moments where people legit was like crying. And it is one of the most emotional films. I would have to compare the emotional weight of it to what was it, Infinity War, where none of our heroes survived in that sense. And so, as an audience member, we just felt this completely sadness. And I'm not saying that this movie is sad. This movie has opportunities. This movie has moments of pure joy and of hope. But baby, it is sad. People are crying. Uh, and then what is to come from what ended up happening in the movie that I can't talk about because there are two end credits that I cannot talk about and that I can talk about. And what I can talk about kind of touches upon something else. So let's just dive into this already, okay? Stop talking like that. So basically, this is the first time in history of all of the Spider-Mans. I'm not saying Spider-Man's appearing here. What I'm saying is, in the history of the universe of what Sony is doing, this is the first time of Spider-Man that Spider-Man identity is revealed to the world. Um, this is the whole situation that took place at from Far From Home with Mysterio and J.J. Jameson at the very end, revealing that Peter Parker is actually Spider Man. And that one moment completely changes his life, and not just his life, but it impacts the lives of other people. So what we do know is that he was 17. He's a 17-year-old senior. His goal is to go to college along with his friends, along with MJ, along with Ned. Everyone wants to go to college, succeed, happy night lives, what you think your life is going to be. And this reveal changes the trajectory of not just his life, but other people's lives as well, for the good and for the bad and for the very ugly. Um, so the danger and the chaos that ends up surrounding Spider-Man ends up costing Peter and MJ as villains, and it casts them as villains, and it ends up costing them their chances at college. And you have your chance at college, you have your hopes and your dreams of what you think you're going to accomplish. That also feels like it's being taken away. And a thing that's really interesting with MJ and Ned, they are cast as Spider-Man's accomplices. Oh, he's a villain, he's a killer, you're friends with him. So there had to be something that you knew, and there had to be you okaying him being the villain that he was cast as. Because remember, people think that it was Peter Parker who killed Mysterio, that stole the drone technology and turned it against him and was going to turn it against the world, and that he was the true villain. And J.J. Jameson, who at this point I would have to say is a conspiracy theorist, he really gives the kind of comparison to an Alex Jones Tucker Carlson situation without going at political, but he is a conspiracy theorist, and that is basically his purpose in life, and his seeking out for what he thinks is the truth ends up having terrible consequences for the lives of other people. He's fine, but the lives of other people are completely ruined, and some are ruined forever. And so, what ends up happening is that Peter Parker can't take the scrutiny, not for just him, but his friends. Their hopes and their dreams are being dashed away by simply because they know him, and that he can't stand to see anymore because His friends worked so hard, and just because they know him, they're being dragged through this. They're being denied access to certain things. Their future is going to just completely be in shambles. And so he is willing to go to Doctor Strange and ask him, "Could you please simply make people not know that I'm Peter Parker? Make them forget that part. But I still want to be able to keep my friends, and I still want to be able to have my life that I have, and I want to be able to still be Spider-Man." He wants to control everything, and he wants to control the narrative, and he doesn't understand that with y- great sacrifice, uh, you can't accomplish everything that you want to in your life. Certain things you're going to have to be able to give up, and he does not understand that. And you have not Tony, sorry, Doctor Strange, he is carrying his own weight, his own emotional baggage as well. Because remember, he just came back from the blip, being blipped 5 years, and Tony Stark, who we know is dead, he feels that he's completely responsible for the death of Tony Stark because he made a decision that took Tony Stark's life away by saying, you have that one thing, and we all know that one chance was you having to sacrifice yourself for everyone. And he kind of really feels upset about that. And he feels that he owes Peter his help because of the weight that he's carrying from losing Tony. Not only taking just his friend, but you took away Peter Parker's mentor as well, So he feels really guilty about that. And he agrees to help him because of that. And everything is going according to plan, but Peter kind of wanting it all at once and not really knowing what he wants, but thinking that he can accomplish everything all at life, and life can be hunky and dory and dandy and wonderful. It ends up creating this massive um, Pandora's box, you could say. It opens up a complete Pandora's box because you can't have it both ways, and it affects a spell, and it changes the parameters of the spell while Strange is casting it. And it ends up bringing everyone who knows Peter Parker in Spider Man into every universe of the MCU. So, this is when we get the multiverse, which we already know about because trailers. And the thing is that Strange is trying to contain the spell before everybody comes in. Um, and that ends up creating a hot mess. And that essentially is what we know. And now Peter has to face everybody who fought Spider-Man, and they think that he's Spider-Man, but he is Spider-Man, but not their Spider-Man. And so there is a moment of pure confusion, and there's a moment of pure chaos, and it is a hot mess. And I mean that in the best way. Like, you can't screw up your life anymore than right now and what's going on. And so I would have to say that this is one of the most powerful and impactful Spider-Man Spider-Man movies of the MCU. And it is truly an origin story. And it was really interesting because if you remember in Civil War, Tony Stark always referred to Peter Parker as Spider Boy. Hey, Spider Boy, Spider Boy. This time he is truly going to be a Spider Man. He has to step into his own light. He has to make decisions for himself. He does not have anyone who he can rely on. And this is when you have to know whether or not you're good enough. And this is when you have to realize that there are going to be dark things in your life, but it's up to you whether or not you want them to consume you or you want them to make you better. And with that said, this is absolutely incredible. And every sacrifice that he makes in order to help people can easily come back to haunt him, not make him regret his decision, but will make him think better. Um, so, without me saying anything, this was incredible. This was heartbreaking. It was emotional, and it took you on a roller coaster. This is 2.5 hours that really went by in a blip. Um, it went by very quickly. And that is because they didn't try to make this into like long monologues and give us unnecessary storylines and unnecessary people. Now, I'm not saying that everything is perfect. In no shape or form is everything perfect at all. But I will say that they did a darn good job trying to make it good. What we do know, what I can talk about, is that we have villains, and we have the villains from other universes or universis. Anyway, universes. We do know about Electro, by Jamie Foxx. We do know Alfred Molina's Doc Ock is in there, and we also do know that there's a Sandman by Hayden Christensen. And lastly, we do know that there is a Green Goblin. I think, and William Defoe. I can say I'm just like just going back in my mind. I was like, yes, he did an interview. There are pictures. William Defoe is Green Goblin, and these are villains that I will have to say they were finally getting their opportunity. Their opportunity. Sorry, can't talk. They were finally given an opportunity to become three-dimensional characters. Or yes, they are villains, but it questions: Are you a villain because of how other people view you? Or are you someone who's human who made a mistake? And this really questions, we're all human people. We don't, however, we got our powers and whatever technology that we have, we're still human on the inside. Are you willing to bring out our humanity that we lost again? And it deals a lot with trying to redeem yourself until it doesn't redeem yourself anymore. That me trying to not spoil anything, but it deals a lot with regretting your past and everything that you've lost as a being labeled a villain and acting in a villainous manner and whether or not it's worth it. Some people make the sacrifice and say, yes, this is completely worth it. Power. And some are saying, you know, it's not worth it anymore. I miss the old me. I'm tired. I'm tired of the life that I now have. I've lost everything and I'm fighting on anger. I don't want to be angry anymore. I want the voices to completely leave my head. I want to know what it's like to think and be whole again. And like I said, some people are willing to go one way and others are willing to go another way. And there may be plot twists. There's a lot of plot twists in this movie. Um, but it's also superbly done. I think the true standouts are William Defoe as Green Goblin, who really carries the weight of regret, of not having what he once have had, which is a family, which is a son who they may not understood each other fully, but they loved each other. And look at your life now, and you lost all of that. And it also questions on whether or not you allowed yourself to go so much into the deep end to truly become that villain role that you lose who you once was. And it becomes an internal struggle. It becomes an internal battle on what you're willing to do to get that life back or what you're willing to do to have the life that you still have. Because what we do know is that Doctor Strange wants them to send them all back to their own universe, but they all die in their own universe. And Peter Parker is really saying, I don't want that to happen. This is the humanity we see in Peter Parker. I don't care that you're a villain. You're still a human. You don't deserve to die. You may have made bad choices, but when do your bad choices mean you have to die for it? And it really questions what is fate and how can you change that fate? Is life destined where you have no control over anything? Or you're only destined because you made that choice? Can you change the choices that you made? And what are you willing to do to make those choices, to change those choices? So Peter Parker really dives into I can save you, but he can't save everyone in the sense that maybe not everyone wants his help. Maybe everyone likes where they're at right now. And they kind of really like the different universes or this universe. Um, So it is really deep and it's really emotional in the sense that it really feels like a Spider-Man movie. This is a movie that connects Peter Parker's Spider-Man to Spider-Man in general, in the sense of with great power comes great responsibility. With this responsibility, if you act irresponsible, here is what can happen to you. Here is what you can lose. Can you make it on your own as just yourself? Can you make it without anyone there? And the movie strips away every authoritative figure that has helped Peter Parker in his life. It strips away to the point where it's just Peter. And what are you really capable of doing as just being Peter? And what happens if you're just Peter? How does that change the trajectory of things? And what are you really willing to sacrifice for your friends and for your family? And that's when, like I said, it becomes incredibly emotional and it becomes incredibly heavy at times. And what they were able to do without saying anything by opening up the multiverse was there is a connective tissue to the groundwork of what Spider-Man is. And with every Spider-Man movie, and I'm not saying these are connected to the other movies in the sense of God, I don't know how to properly say this. Each journey that you take may be different from other people, but there's a similarity to it. And there are similarities to life, but the changes that you make, how does that separate you from others without spoiling anything? Jesus, this is really hard. Um, what we have known um, from the previous Far From Home, for example, is that, he lost his mentor and he's really taken that to heart. And he discovers that being Spider-Man means that when duty comes calling, you have to answer. And at the end of that film, Peter is ready to be his own man and he's willing to be the hero that everyone wants him to be. But by having that identity revealed and being framed for the murder of Quinn Beck, Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal, um, this really blows up his life to now he has to make sacrifices that he never thought he had the power to make. Um, so this, without saying anything, is beautiful. It is sad. JJ Jameson is a complete butthole in this movie. This is not the JJ Jameson that we know from before. Give me Spider-Man pics. No, he is full blown. I don't want to say evil, but I will say that he is determined to do anything and to cast anyone in whatever light that shapes his narrative. And it's a very selfish character. And what ends up happening can destroy other people's lives because of him and because of his willingness to be successful in his kind of basement. That's all I can really say. Um, but it is sad. Um, Zendaya is MJ is superb, and she carries this movie very well. We all know what a great actress she is, and this is a completely different side of MJ, where we see emotion from her. She's always been stoic. I don't show no emotion. Cool, whatever. To full out emotion. There, like I said, there's moments that break characters completely, and it's what happens to my friend? Can I still be your friend in the sense of will you still accept me? Not because she does anything wrong, but because there's certain things where you just don't know how to handle in life and with other people. When Spider Man had maybe loses everything, how are you still able to just be there for a person? Ned is hilarious. Ned is great. I really love Ned. Um, so it's really, really great. And like I said, this is the first Spider-Man movie in the MCU, and it is superb. This is still a Sony movie, so don't, it's not an MCU movie, but you know what I mean. Overall, Tom Holland is becoming Spider-Man. Um, this is really great and wonderful. Uh, Obviously, the technology has improved, and they touch upon that in the movie, because like in your world, what decade did that come from? And our universe is way more advanced, and we do see some advancements that happen. Um, so this was really great. It was really wonderful to see these actors that we've known kind of step back in their own costumes and see them again. It's really fun. It felt like a reunion tour. I will say this one thing though. While this has a bunch of villains in it, the thing when you have too many of something, some people can get lost in the shuffle. And while Jamie Foxx is Electro, we do know is in there, he does the best with what he's given to him. I do feel that sometimes that they lose him a bit. They do lose the character, and he instead just becomes a nuisance. And he has a really great line that he delivers about always thinking Spider-Man was black. So tongue-in-cheek thing in there, you know, possibly it might go miles away. Um, yeah, so that's all I can really say was this was incredible. I really loved it. Um, this was a really great experience to see in the theater because here's the thing, there's a particular scene, the fight scenes. I want to touch upon the fight scenes really quickly without spoiling anything. Because we are seeing a different side of Tom Holland, we are seeing a different side of Spider-Man where you lose everything, and what ends up happening to you when you're so full of anger and you're so full of regret that it can lead you down a dark end. And whether or not you're able to pull yourself out of that dark end. But when Peter Parker, Tom Holland is in that darkness, we see a completely different Spider-Man in the sense of his fighting techniques are brutal. I mean, he's grounding and pounding guys where you're like, I'm just waiting for him to say, I am vengeance. I am Batman. It's that kind of ground and pound. It's that kind of straight up anger fight that we see from him. Like we've known Tom Holland Spider-Man from like, stop it guy and smack you in the cheek and do some cute little web things. This is I have a fist, and my fist is powered by all of my anger that I have lost and the people that I have lost, and I'm going to kill you. There comes to the point where you honestly, I'm like, he's going to kill someone. And it's really kind of beautiful to see. Like I said, it's a different dynamic to Spider-Man. It's a different anger can change a person and make them become someone else. And Peter Parker has to decide whether or not he's going to go down that hole. What happens to him when he goes down that darkness? And is he able to pull himself away from that? Um, like I said, this movie has to deal a lot with, are you able to change your destiny? Or is that just going to always be what you're meant for? And there are elements that's like, I remember that. That looks familiar, but it may be different for you. You can probably change certain things, and there's certain things you can't. So that is probably all that I can say. This was incredible. I truly love this. I thought it was fantastic. Oh, and in terms of theater, there were, like I said, the fight scene is incredible. There's a scene that they go into the mirrorverse, the mirror universe. Mirrorverse? It's the mirror thing. Remember when you saw the Doctor Strange and they're in the mirror and they're fighting and the things happen? Um, it kind of looks like a cross between Inception and the Mirrorverse from Doctor Strange 1. Uh, it's superb. It is shot so beautifully. And you could just see from the years of when that came out to now the advancement in technology because everything about this movie is crisp. The fight choreography is clean. The special effects, it doesn't feel special effecty. Right? We've seen like the previous Spider-Man where he's holding Zendaya and it looks like a kind of like a puppet thing, and we see movement and we see like, oh my gosh, this is we feel the angles and the swishing and the swinging, and it's a lot, and they do that a lot in the movie. It is in New York City and they really explore New York City. So it's an open world sandbox. They just do a really great job, and William Defoe and Alfred Molina standouts. Jamie Foxx could have been given more, and Sandman kind of feels like an afterthought. He, I will just say everyone overall is genuinely confused about what's going on. They play that confusion well, and there are just some characters that they're there, but you kind of wish you had more from them. Some are like, I'm going to just give some lines, and I'll see you later. But the main people, they do handle it really well. It's a lot of weight to what they do, and this is a movie that's transformative. It's transformative for not just Peter Parker, but Ned and MJ. They all go through their own transformations as well. I'm not even going to say what ends up happening with some of the characters because that would be a spoiler. But uh, the relationship between Peter and MJ, Zendaya's MJ, uh, Peter really opens up to her, and she used to be really half glass empty negative person, and you kind of see a change in her. You kind of see brightness and hope, and it's really nice to see brightness and hope. MJ is really well, Zendaya is a superb actress, and like I said, there's hope mixed with sadness and just pure emotions. That's just like my heart is broken, and like I said, there are moments in the movie where the audience was just kind of that empty silence, and that empty silence not because it's bad, but because it's like, wow, that happened. And there was a lot of applauding. There was a lot of cheering. There's a lot of stuff that happens that I'm not going to talk about because this is a spoiler-free review. But this is amazing, and I will say Marissa Tomei is still amazing as Aunt May. Uh, John Favreau is happy. He's happy. There's some things that go on with their relationship. It's like what the heck, you know? I didn't expect that. But they are really great in this movie as well, and you get to see their relationship and explored further, and how Happy is kind of matured through everything that's happened to him, and he's very vulnerable. And we never really seen a vulnerable Happy. We seen him really frustrated and probably needed some antacids, but we never seen him vulnerable. Um, but it's really interesting what ends up happening with his friends, and this was something that was 100%, I feel, fleshed out, that did a really great job of creating something that shoot, can I say that? It did a really great job of honoring Spider-Man, but also making the audience want to know what's next with him and his journey, because his journey is forever changed. It isn't, it isn't, and that's all I can say. But overall, this was superb. Do you need to rush out and see it in theaters? I don't really feel like I should answer that because everyone's gonna go see it in theaters anyway. You know, um, like I said, there are really some great cinematic moments, and I miss a theater in terms of you have that collective experience. But if you're not comfortable yet with going to the theater, I completely understand. It was kind of weird during my experience because they was not checking vaccine cards. Um, Not good. Anyway, uh, with my experience, it's really great to hear a collective cheer and a collective cry and a collective, oh my God. Uh, but you're not really missing anything if you decide to wait the 45 days and see this on PVOD and then later on Netflix. Because remember, Sony and Netflix has a nice big deal where the movies are going to the Netflix. What can I say this connects to? I'm not going to say what it connects to because it can't, but I will say a previous movie that also came out this year. It continues that story a little bit. Um, that was fun. you get to see overall what's next for Sonyverse and what's next for MCU. And it's really exciting. And I am someone who, I'm not gonna lie, I got fatigued. I got superhero fatigued. But what's to come was like, oh my God. There are two credits. There's a mid credit and there's in credits. Do not leave until the lights come up in the theater. Just stay there. You've already been in the theater for 2.5 hours. Where are you going? Just stay there. Um, I will say that one made people laugh. It was really nice what they did. It was adorable, and it brings about some new villains, maybe. And then the other one, mid credit, had people screaming. I mean, screaming with pure joy. I mean, it felt like if the most underdog of underdog sports team won a championship and everyone collectively lost their poop. I mean, poop was everywhere. They were screaming from the top of their lungs because the end credit was was more of a, we'll see Doctor Strange in this thing, and what's to come. Holy poopy pants! Bring a diaper, cause the poop's gonna fly. It was amazing. It was incredible. So I've taken up of your time. I thank you for watching. Uh, if you liked what you heard, please give a like or subscribe. I also want you to know there will be a spoiler review coming up. We will have a discussion panel coming up. So this is not the last of Spider-Man, because there are things that I could not touch upon that I really, really wanted to touch upon, because it really connects to family. And I can't tell you why it connects to family and what was really popping. So stay tuned for the spoiler after you obviously have seen Spider-Man, or if you just want to watch a spoiler. That will drop on the 15th, because the UK sees it first. So thank you very much. If you like what you saw, if you can't stand me, thank you still for watching. Um, but like, subscribe if you want to. Thank you very much. Have a great day, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're watching this.